Music festivals can be such a beautiful playground for expansion, for self-expression, and a celebration of life to be at a place that is so rich with art and music and community and experiences that just bring you back into the remembrance of what it is to be alive, to really feel everything, to be present, to dance, to just let go of all the worries and the concerns and the responsibilities and just be human for a few days. It's so interesting to see how curriculum shows up for each person. Like the exact processes that you're meant to work through, whatever has been alive in your life, it's like you enter these spaces and it just amplifies that as an opportunity to move through it, to grow, to integrate, to really expand into the next version of yourself. Your intention creates so much of your experience. And if you take the time to actually tune into like, what do you want to get out of this experience? What do you want this to be? How do you want to feel? That will allow you to then make the decisions in each moment to really get what you're looking for. It's not just for the experience, but it's like, what is that reminding you of? What is that awakening in you? And how can you take those pieces and integrate them more into your everyday reality? Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Home to Self podcast. My name is Lilly. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm so excited today to share more about my Unison Music Festival experience. If you guys have been around for a little bit, you will probably know about Unison. It is a smaller, conscious, spiritual festival that happens in Durango, Colorado, every year in September. And it is a meaningful place for me because that is really where our community was birthed. That's where it all began. And this was my 4th year going. And it's been so cool to see the evolution of it within our community. Every year it gets a little bit bigger and people invite their friends and our squad grows. And it's just such a pivotal and transformative experience for everyone who attends. And every year it's a little bit different. If you have ever been to a music festival, then you know what a portal it can be, especially the ones that are more conscious, more, that bring together more people who are on a similar path of spirituality, of self-development, of discovering who they are authentically and wanting to really come back into what life can be within the realms of community, self-expression, authenticity, play, and experiencing the magic that life has to offer. And I think that music festivals like that can be such a beautiful playground for expansion, for self-expression, and a celebration of life. I think that oftentimes partying gets this bad rap and this just distorted perception of it just being an escape, like just there to party. And obviously partying is a part of it. Who doesn't love a good party? Who doesn't love to play and dance and just have a good time? And I think that there's nothing wrong with that because life is meant to be enjoyed and celebrated. And I think within that, there is an opportunity for us to do it intentionally and really get the most out of it. And that is really how I approach music festivals, is a balance between play and having fun and letting go and just getting out of the everyday routine and the roles that I play and just celebrate being alive. Because what a better way to feel alive than to be at a place that is so rich with art and music and community and experiences that just bring you back into the remembrance of what it is to be alive, to really feel everything, to be present, to dance, to just let go of all the worries and the concerns and the responsibilities and just get to be, like just be human for a few days and play. Like that in and of itself is actually so healing and so transformative. And I don't think that we as a collective society give ourselves enough experiences like that. A lot of people wait until they get to a certain point in their lives or they've become a certain version of themselves or achieved enough or made enough money to finally allow themselves to really enjoy life. And I think that that's a big missed opportunity. Because to be honest, we don't know how long we have on this planet and these bodies, and there's nowhere to get to. It's like if we don't take some time to slow down and actually enjoy and say yes to these opportunities to just be, then how do we expect ourselves to be able to experience that and allow that in later on in life? Like it's all happening now. And so I think that there's so much to be said about, like, yeah, go celebrate, go dance, go have fun. Not everything has to be productive. Not everything has to be an achievement. It can just be like, oh, soak it in, soak in the magic of being alive without using it as an escape. And again, everything is just neutral. We are the ones that create meaning, and it's based on our intentions and how we navigate experiences in our lives. And so, with that said, just to give you a little bit of context, if you have no idea what Unison is, like I said, Unison is a smaller festival. I'm not sure how many people are there. Probably, I don't know, maybe I think 4,000 this year was actually the biggest that it's been. And it happens on this beautiful land called Time River Resort, which is in Durango. I actually think it's in New Mexico, but it's like right on the border, New Mexico and Colorado. And it just has this beautiful river that flows through the entire property. It's all outdoors, it's camping, and there are workshops during the day. And then there's an awesome lineup of different artists, a lot of bass music, but then a lot of also like spiritual artists, all sorts of different flavors. And there's 3 stages, I believe. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to just come and, like I said, let go of all your roles and your responsibilities and just express yourself and choose your own adventure. And that's one of the things I love most about music festivals is this. It really is a choose your own adventure because there's so many things to do. There's so many things to see and interact with and people to connect with and different artists to see. And, you have the whole schedule. There's a lot of things going on simultaneously, and you really just get to go to whatever it is that interests you. And it's so awesome to see how, I talk a lot about this idea, this concept of like this divine orchestration that's happening in our lives constantly. How when we are in the flow of trusting life and the people that it brings into our paths and the opportunities that arise and the curriculum that comes up, like it happens in such a synchronistic, divine fashion where the exact people show up at the exact time. You move through the things that are meant to come up at this point in your life. And festivals like this, in my experience, are a catalyst, like an amplifier of that. And when we can actually flow with that instead of trying to control it all and make it all exactly the way that we want it to be and think it should be, then we just enter this portal for a few days where, like I said, synchronicities are just heightened. And when you just open yourself to trusting that like you're going to flow with it the way that life wants you to, on the other side of that, I have always noticed that happens so beautifully. Like I run into the right people at the right time. I'm led intuitively to the right stages and to the right places. And it's just this like beautiful divine orchestration where we just get to play and dance with life and whatever it is that it's meant to, like whatever journey it's meant to take us on. And yeah, for me this year, like I said, it was my 4th year going. And the first year that I went was 4 years ago. And I went with Austin, my partner, and our friend Daniel, who we'd met at another music festival a couple months before that called Arcadia. I actually have an episode about that way back in the archives if you are curious. That was a massively pivotal moment in my life. That was the first one that I went to that was conscious and intentional like this. And it opened my eyes to this world. However, we showed up, just the 3 of us, little babies, and still so inexperienced when it comes to these scenes, but just so hungry for more of these connections, more of these experiences, and to explore these worlds. And we showed up and we set up our camp right by the river. Again, we didn't know anyone else, and we were just like so curious. And as life will do it, it placed us in the exact right spot to meet some of our best friends. we ended up camping next to some people that ended up being, still to this date are some of our best friends. And really from that first experience is when our little family, our little community of friends came together. And there was, I think, about 6 to 8 of us that first year that connected really deeply. And it just felt really resonant, and happened to all live in the Boulder, Denver area. And so that's where everything kind of began. And from there, we just kept the connections going outside of the music festival, deepened in relationships. And every year since, we have come back with more friends, more people that we've invited. And it's just organically grown into this beautiful conscious community that it's still just like, I'm in awe every time that I witness the harmony and the coherence and just the depth that is created between these humans who are all walking a similar path of life and have a similar intention to really embody authenticity and create positive impact in this world by following their purpose and their truth. And so this past year, a couple weeks ago, was the biggest group that we've had. I think there was about 40 of us there. And it's fun because to witness the collaboration that happens, we all get in a group chat weeks before we start to plan, and everyone just brings in something. They contribute whatever service, whatever pieces that are needed to create a communal campsite in the middle of what they call the magical forest, which is where all the people camp in tents. And we just set up shop right in the middle of the whole thing. We have this giant easy up tent, and we create a big cuddle puddle area and just like a shared kitchen space, and we just vibe it out with lights, and it's just so cozy and beautiful. It feels like a little family. And to have that as a home base from which, again, you can go out and frolic and choose your own adventure, but always have that home base to come back to and rest and, recoup and slow down is such a great experience. And so, to watch the collaboration that happens so naturally, where everyone wants to contribute something, and how that comes together so naturally and beautifully to create an experience that is positive for everyone, where everything's covered, everyone has what they need and feels safe enough to play, is one of my favorite parts. And so, and also to see the ripple effects that it has. It's so fun to see like people that don't know us, and they get to experience the magic of this giant group of people that are all just like authentically themselves and connected and showing up for each other and dancing together and celebrating life together. It's so rewarding to see the ripple effects that has on the world, on the people that get to witness that and experience that. It's not like this exclusive thing. It's really like, if it's a match energetically, like people dance in and out of the space and get a taste of what is possible. And that's really why I share all of this too. It's not to say like, hey, I have it and like, this is the only way to get it. It's just hopefully giving you a taste of like what you get to create in this life based on what's true to you. There are endless people out there that are looking for community, and sometimes we get to show up first and start to embody that in order to attract that and call that in. And that is my hope with sharing all of this, is that you recognize that we're all, I think, especially the people who are on this path and listening to this podcast, there's this shared desire to go back to more of like tribal living, at least in the sense of like having a greater network, having a place where you belong, recognizing that we are a shared humanity and that living this way is possible, and what that actually gets to look like and feel like. And so, that was a really big part of it. But this year, my intention for Unison was really to do it my way. And I say that because I have had a pattern in the past of really just merging into crowds, merging in with my friend group and becoming a chameleon, right? Following along with whatever the group is doing and not really tuning in and being discerning of like what is true for me in each moment. And it's like for a time that works, and it allowed me to create really deep connections and beautiful experiences. However, the journey that I've been on is more of this like path of becoming more anchored in my own sense of self and not playing into the small self that feels FOMO or doesn't want to be left out and is just kind of like going along with the flow because of deeper fears of feeling, like I I want that connection, and I feel like that's the only way to get it. And because I'm at this stage in my life where my priority is really honoring my truth in every moment and recognizing the magnetism of you prioritizing yourself first and how that allows you to actually give more as well. I wanted to bring that into this space. And I think setting an intention for everything in your life, but especially for an experience like this, is something I want to double click on, because your intention creates so much of your experience. And if you take the time to actually tune into like, what do you want to get out of this experience? What do you want this to be? How do you want to feel? That will allow you to then make the decisions in each moment to really get what you're looking for. If we go into it blindly and we're just like, oh, whatever, we'll see where life takes us. I mean, I think that there's a balance, because there's a lot of magic that is, that you can't just consciously predict ahead of time. But still having some guide, like that guide post of knowing what you actually want to get out of an experience, is really, really important. So like I said, my intention was to really listen to my own intuition and go to the workshops, go to the different shows, the different sets that I really wanted to see and that I felt called to be at, even if the group was going elsewhere, or my close friends were doing something different. Like, could I really stay true to my own navigation, my own GPS, and what I actually wanted? And that started even before the festival began. And what that looked like was me actually going a day later than everyone else. So it's a 4-day experience. We usually show up on Thursday midday, start setting up camp. Thursday is like the opening ceremony. There's a couple sets that night, and then the main sets are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you leave on Monday morning. And we've always done that. We've gone for the whole weekend. We paid for the 4 days, so it's like, got to make the most of it. And this year, I just had this like intuitive feeling that I wanted to show up Friday morning instead of Thursday. And again, I've built this connection with myself, and this is the work that I take clients through and that I teach, of really coming home to yourself, right? The theme of this podcast, of like recognizing like, who are you and what do you actually need? What is your intuition asking for? And how can you learn to trust that? Like, that really is the foundation to living a life that is true to you. And that's also the foundation for authenticity, for magnetism, for success, for all the things you desire, because it's an energetic frequency of alignment where your mind, body, and spirit are living in alignment with your truth. And each of ours is a little bit unique and different to us. And that's what makes life so magical, when we actually live from that place instead of from the shoulds and the fears and the conditioning of our mind, which is how I lived most of my life prior to this work that I'm in. And so, yeah, I had this feeling. I was like, I actually don't care to be there on Thursday. It's obviously a lot energetically to be at a music festival for 4 days, especially camping, and you're out of your environment. And, there's a lot that goes into it. And I am a very sensitive being, and I need, I need just as much alone time and like slowness and stillness in order to show up fully to such a social experience. And so that was the first hit I got, was like, go Friday and just experience three days, 3 full days, right? And again, I know by now to trust that feeling. For me, it's a very guttural experience. I'm a sacral authority in human design, so I know the way that intuitive hit shows up in my body. And the moment that came through, I was like, okay, yes, that's what I'm doing. And so I told my friends, I told Austin, and we planned for it. He showed up separately, so he drove our friend's truck. It actually ended up working out beautifully because he needed someone to drive the car. And I ended up driving our car on Friday morning. But the moment that I made that decision, that's when all of the logic and the fears and the conditioning started to come through. And this is what happens every time, right? We have this intuitive feeling. We know it's truth deep down. Our higher self is like, yeah, that's my truth. And then we still get to be confronted with all of the past patterns and the fears and, this version of self that doesn't trust that has lived from logic and fear. And that is usually what stops people, because then they get confused. Then they start battling between the mind and the heart, and they get confused about what to do and what's the best decision, what's the right move, right? And we get ourselves very conflicted. And learning how to work through the fears that come up, the old conditioning that comes up to battle to essentially keep you safe, because the mind is just trying to keep you safe. And the only way it knows how to do that is to stick to what's familiar. So again, in my case here, what's familiar to me is to go with the crowd, to go with the flow, to do what everyone else is doing. That is how I lived most of my life. And so for me to make a decision like this of doing my own thing and missing out on a night, that also brought up like fear of FOMO, of like missing out, and all of these different fears. And like also like, are you going to drive 6 hours by yourself? What if something happens on the road and you're all by yourself? Because we usually caravan together on Thursday, and that feels safer. All of these different logistics and fears came up. And I mentioned that to you as, again, an insight on how this works, this journey of starting to live true to you and trust your intuition over your head and your logic. It's not just like, oh, I do that, then everything goes well from there. It's like, okay, and now are you prepared to work through the pieces that come up that are going to try to prevent that in order to bring you back into your comfort zone? And yeah, I got to just sit with these different parts that were afraid, that were trying to like go back on my decision, and sit through that and work through that and recognize what it was, and not let it take over my experience and change what I truly know was right for me. And so I'm so glad I did. Usually it's when we trust it and we stick with it and we learn how to work with the fears and do us anyway, that we then recognize why it happened that way, why that was actually the best decision for us, right? It's only in hindsight that we get that clarity. So we have to have that blind faith first. But over time, you create lived proof, and it becomes easier and easier. And yeah, I'm so glad I did that, because I had one more day to meal prep. I love to meal prep as much as I can so that I can, eat relatively healthy and still nourish my body. And so I meal prepped a bunch of food Thursday. I got to have an extra night in my own bed, get some good sleep, and not rush into this experience. And so I ended up leaving at 5 a.m. on Friday, because I planned to pick up some friends from the airport who were flying in for this, the Durango airport. So like really close to the experience, to the festival, and they were landing at 11 a.m. And so I was like, okay, here's an opportunity. I get to wake up really early, and that way I still get most of the day on Friday. And it worked out great. I got up early. I had everything ready to go. I packed up the car all by myself, which was also beautiful, because within my relationship with Austin, we are in a season of reclaiming sovereignty, because relationships can become very enmeshed, right? Especially long-term relationships. It's like you do everything together. You're kind of this unit, and that's beautiful. But I think we can also get really lost in that and lose our own sense of self and do things that, right? It's like trusting your own intuition is a little bit harder when you kind of just want to do everything that your partner does, and you do it as a team, right? And so then you end up giving in to them, and it just can become distorted and cause some resentment. And what was beautiful is that this opportunity allowed us both to step more into that sovereignty and do things our way, which was so healthy for the relationship as well. And yeah, it allowed Austin to take care of the logistics and set up our camp with some other friends and take care of more of that, like the structural logistical pieces, which I, as the feminine, don't like to take care of, but have a tendency to micromanage a little bit. And that's my old control mechanism of trying to make sure everything is the way that I think it should be in order to feel safe. And so I end up kind of, just peeking over his shoulder, making sure everything is kind of the way that I think it should be. And it takes away from his empowerment of doing things and trusting his own intuition of how to lay the groundwork. And so me not being there allowed him to step up and me to release that control and yeah, and just let him take over that piece of it. And then I got to really take care of the food and more of that side of things and do that my way too. And so then through that we met in the middle, and it was just a beautiful opportunity to be like, oh yeah, this is who we are, individually, and this is what feels good. We're such different people. That's usually what happens in relationships, right? We have our mirror opposites, like opposites attract. And so it's like, can you still stay true to you even when you are in relationship? That's a whole nother conversation, but just wanted to throw that in because that was another little nugget that came through. And so I showed up Friday. I picked up my friends from the airport and everything went so smooth with the drive. I got to listen to my own music and whatever podcasts I wanted to. And it was just such a beautiful drive. Colorado is a work of art, and just driving through the mountains is, I love it so much. So that was really fun and went honestly really, really smoothly. And I arrived and camp was already set up. It was so great. I didn't have to do any of the hard work of setting up our tent or anything. I just got to show up and everything was already there, and that felt really good. And yeah, from there, the magic began. And like I said, festivals like this are such a playground for self-growth and play and self-discovery when done intentionally. And what's really fascinating to see is that, again, when done like that and in a group that values all of these things as well, it's so interesting to see how curriculum shows up for each person. Like the exact processes that you're meant to work through, whatever has been alive in your life, it's like you enter these spaces and it just amplifies that for like as an opportunity to move through it, to grow, to integrate, to really expand into the next version of yourself. And to do that in community and to be authentic with whatever's coming up, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? It's not always like, oh, life's great and everything's amazing and I'm just here to party. Sometimes it is, but especially this year because it was during the eclipse. So the energy was intense for a lot of people. And again, all my friends live this life. Like this is our lifestyle, is like doing the work and showing up to whatever's presenting itself and not dismissing the emotions and the work that's wanting to come through in each moment, even if you're at a festival. And so, yeah, it was just really interesting to see how every person was navigating something in their lives that was hard, that was challenging, and facing it with so much love and doing it in community, like allowing themselves to be vulnerable in both the parts of their lives that were going really well and that they're celebrating at this experience, and also not shying away from, these are the parts that are alive. This is the grief I'm navigating. These are the challenges I'm working through, whether in relationships or in my own evolution or with my work or my family or whatever it may be. We all had kind of our thing. And it always kind of tends to be that way. And I think that this adds so much more depth and meaning because it's real. It's not like, oh, we're all just pretending that everything's great and we're going to avoid everything else that, is alive for us in this season of life while we're here, which could be really easy to do. But instead it's like, okay, this space actually is going to amplify that because we are outside of our routine, outside of our patterns. There's less control, and I don't even know exactly why this happens, but it really does, where it's a space where all of your shit comes up, quite frankly. And again, I view that as a beautiful opportunity to work through it, release it, and gain the wisdom and the freedom that comes on the other side of like going right into the fire and not avoiding whatever is here because it's here for a reason. So to watch the community support each person through whatever it is that they were navigating with so much love and support was one of the most meaningful things. And I see this every time that our group comes together. But this year especially, I think was such a testament to what has organically been built over the past 4 years. At the beginning, it was a smaller group. And so to now see that like ripple out was so profound. Like I just witnessed friends holding strangers, people who were coming in for the first time. There was a lot of people who had never experienced Unison, people who didn't really know anyone else in the community, but they, had a connection that invited them in. And yeah, for each of those people to express how welcomed they felt, how safe they felt, how held they felt, how loved they felt through all of it it's one of the most meaningful things to witness. And so that was really beautiful. And it happens everywhere. It happens in all the in-between moments. It happens on the dance floor. You'll witness one-on-one connections, people just holding space for each other and also dancing and playing and having fun. It's like the full spectrum of the human experience comes alive in these festivals for us. And yeah, it's my favorite thing because that's like what life can be, right? In our everyday reality. And yeah, so Friday we had our night. It was really fun. Parangi played, who is amazing. That was such a portal. Everyone was just like, it was crazy. The moment he went on, I just feel like everyone dropped in and was suddenly like so present and so in the moment. And yeah, his music is just like such deep medicine for the soul, but also so fun and like primal and connecting and just yeah, it's so mixed in with life itself, with nature. And yeah, that was a really powerful experience. And then Saturday, because like I said, a lot of festivals have workshops, but especially Unison, there's a lot of really like awesome workshops that happen. And there's all these different, like there's like a women's tent, there's a men's tent or a men's lodge, and then there's like these different places. And you get to pick and choose which ones are interesting to you. And Saturday for me was like, I went off by myself, which again, I loved because that was part of my intention, was like, go do you, even if it feels a little edgy. For me, it's like I usually like to pair up with someone or go with someone I already know. But I was like, I get to do me and I feel comfortable doing that. And so the first workshop I went to was called Embodied Intuition, and it was in the women's tent. And it was such a cool experience because it was all about learning how to trust your intuition. And something that she said, which I've never heard put this way before, was that intuition is the ability to sense energy. And I thought that was such a cool way of expressing what intuition is. And this whole workshop was about learning about how your intuition speaks to you and how to, essentially deepen that connection so that you can use your own intuition as a navigation system for your life. So on theme, so on point. And yeah, we did this really cool exercise with a partner where one person is standing and they have their eyes closed and the other person has their hands in front and behind them, but not touching their body, just like right outside. And you kind of move your hands up and down with, right, the person has their eyes closed, and you end up stopping on one point, whether it's like their heart chakra or their sacral region or their crown, whatever it may be. And again, without touching them, you just kind of leave your hands there, and they try to guess where it is that your hands are hovering. And it's just a way to start to really deepen into the felt sense of energy and expand your awareness to really notice and sense where that connection is happening, and allows you to like tap deeper into your felt sense. And that was really cool. So I went to that workshop, and then right after that, I went to the Parangi Music is Medicine experience, which, oh my gosh, that was such a highlight. It was a 3-hour workshop. There was tons of people there, and he essentially, oh my gosh, how do I even explain this? He basically was like orchestrating the symphony of humans. And the whole purpose was like learning how to use your body as an instrument for music. And everything is energy, everything is vibration. And there's so much beyond the physical, tangible reality. And when we learn to actually tap into that, there's so much we can do with that. And it can be such medicine actually on like a healing level, on a physical level, and also just the way that music connects people, especially when we are singing and using our voices together in unity. Oh, it like gives me chills. It's one of my favorite experiences. And yeah, he basically just orchestrated this beautiful symphony of humans where he was in the middle of the circle and he was just directing. Like he kind of split up everyone into like these 4 groups, and he would have one section of people start with this one harmony, this one melody, if you will, and keep going. And then it was different for each section of humans, and then we were all just like, it was like live looping in the moment, and it was so cool. Like, and then he would just, bring one section's voices higher and then end one, and then he'd sing in the middle, and it just created this like beautiful symphony. It was so alivening, and again creates such an experience of unity when we are all together. I think it's such a reminder of like our oneness, right? Our connection to each other, connection to the earth, our connection to our bodies. When we start to tap into that frequency, and it just raises the vibration. You can sense everyone is so alive, everyone's so engaged, everyone's so present and connected to themselves and each other. So that was amazing. I'm trying to get some more footage of that to share with you guys. So hopefully I can give you more of a taste. But that was a really, really cool experience. And right after that, I went to what was called a tantric workshop. And it was awesome. It was such a highlight. I had planned to go to this one because I was like, yes, sign me up. That sounds so fun and intriguing. And it was a little bit of an edge to go by myself. I was like, I have no idea what this is going to be, but let's go. Like I'm in this season of life of really, just tapping deeper into my sexuality, my sensuality, and using that like creative life force energy to pour into my creations, to pour into my life, to fuel my life. And there's so much to be said about like activating our senses and learning how to play with that energy to feel more alive, to be more magnetic, and to make the most of this existence. Like we are in these bodies that get these 5 or 6 senses, if you will. And so much of our lives, we just live from our heads, and we miss out on all the simplest pleasures of like eating food and looking at a sunset and listening to good music. There's so much richness, and there's such a deepening for me right now happening in that area of life. And so this felt like a fun way to both deepen in that, but also to just play and let go and stop being so serious. And dance is one of my favorite things in the world, dance and music. And so hence why I love music festivals so much. So anyway, I made my way over to this workshop. And to my surprise, there was not only women, but also men, which I thought was really fun. Men choosing to twerk for this sense of fun and pleasure and aliveness was so cool. So it was just a mixed bag of humans, and the facilitator took us through, some warm-ups. The energy was so high, the music was amazing, and we just got to be in our bodies and shake our butts and just connect with each other and play. And there was so much laughter and just silliness. And and then at the end of the workshop, she had all the guys go in the middle and twerk, and all the women were around just cheering them on. And then we switched, and it was just hilarious. It was so fun, and I danced my ass off. I was sweating so hard by the end of that. It was hilarious. And I just left, and I was just like pulsating with life. It's just amazing. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get into this in a moment, but it's like, how do we take these experiences and integrate them into our everyday lives? Because that's a big part of doing festivals intentionally, or really anything, right? It's like, it's not just for the experience, but it's like, what is that reminding you of? What is that awakening in you? And how can you take those pieces and integrate them more into your everyday reality? So we'll get to that. But yeah, that is what my Saturday looked like. And then I went back to camp. I chilled for a little bit, got together with the group, and we got ready, and we went out to see the main acts. I forget who played on Saturday, but it was amazing. So much connection on the dance floor. And again, so much of my joy is dancing. And it's dancing, like what that brings and reminds me of is just the power of being in my own body, of inhabiting my body with my senses. And so my friends, my friends will know this, but I often spend the time on the dance floor at a show with my eyes closed because it allows me to come into my own experience, because I can easily fall into, right, like getting distracted about there's so many people, there's so much energy, there can be so much stimulation, and it's so easy to get like sidetracked into like someone else's experience, and it takes away from our own, right? And so it's something I love to do, is like really just fully be in it. It's just like I close my eyes and I'm dancing to just like the rhythm of the music, and it's like everything else fades into the distance, and it's just this experience, this moment, me, the body, the music. And it's in those moments that I realize that is me tapping into my highest version of self, which is such good such a good experience to have as often as possible, because then we can use that as a guidepost of like, okay, how do I embody more of this energy, more of this frequency, this presence, this full embodiment and aliveness in my everyday life? That is the goal. And so wherever that happens for you, whether it's on the dance floor, while you're meditating, while you're out hiking in nature, while you're journaling, while you're connecting with people, it's different for everyone, but it's like find the places where you come alive and start to extract the pieces of like, okay, who am I with? What am I doing? What brings me joy? What am I wearing? And then start to take those pieces, that data, and pour it into your life more. Use it to fuel your life so that you can become an embodiment of that in more of your everyday reality. That is the key. So yeah, a lot of that weekend was just me in my joy, in my happy place, which is me and music and dancing. And then like coming in and out of that experience to like look around and connect. And again, people moving through things, like relationships transitioning and people working through triggers and curriculum and all the things. But for it all to get to exist and be welcomed and be moved through, it's it's like that is the possibility that we have of being human, of embracing the fullness of this human existence, knowing that it's all of it at all times, right? Like we are such multifaceted humans. There is always a multitude of experiences happening simultaneously within us. And to not suppress one or judge another, but really to just allow it all to be without judging it and pushing it away. It's just energy moving through. It's moment by moment, just experiences. And to be alive is to feel it all, to allow it all without making it mean something, without using it as evidence to support these stories about who you are and what this means and what you're capable of, but instead just being in this flow with life where you trust whatever is here and you actually face it with love and you alchemize it through the body and you connect with people and you're authentic. Anyway, going off into the weeds, but that is really so much of the magic. And yeah, we get to embody that more in our everyday lives. So yeah. And then Sunday was also beautiful. Honestly, it all kind of blends together. I'm like, I don't even know what happened on which day anymore, but it was all just a really beautiful experience of that. And then on Sunday, I did also have this beautiful experience towards the end of the night. After the main acts ended, I was really starting to get tired after 3 days of staying up late and camping and, all the things that I was just pretty exhausted after the main acts. Usually there's some more bass music that goes on at another stage till late at night. And again, you can choose your own adventure. Also, I missed a part, but Saturday night, one of my favorite experiences and other favorites about Unison is that because it's very much a spiritual festival, they have the sacred fire. So it's this beautiful fire that they keep alive throughout the entirety of the festival. There's fire keepers and there's always people gathered around, especially later at night, singing songs together. And there's elders there telling stories. And it's just this very sacred space. And so I spent I think it was Friday or Saturday night I spent late by myself. I went after the main acts and just kind of frolicked by myself over to the Sacred Fire, spent some time there. And again, it's like us coming together, especially over a fire. Like that is such a primal, ancient ritual and just community building experience where you are connected to nature and you're connected to each other and you're singing songs and you just feel so alive. And it just reminds you of what it means to be human. Like these experiences that we've lost touch of in these hyper independent modern worlds where we're not in nature as much, we're not connected to the elements as much, and we're not in community, where strangers become family because everyone's just there and just raw and real and expressing. And it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, what gender you are, what you're wearing, like all of that just fades out. And you're just like heart to heart, voice to voice, dancing and singing in unison is, again, it reminds you of what really matters in this life. And that is beautiful. And so I bopped around between the Sacred Fire and the sound tent, which is another one of my highlights always, every year. It's this beautiful open tent where they just have artists and musicians, each on a different instrument, and they are also live looping. They're just creating this music. It's so cool to see because nothing is scripted or planned. They'll just start and then it builds on each other, right? Like one guy's on the didgeridoo and the other one's on the drums, and there's just all these beautiful instruments, and the way that they just find their flow and they're just in the flow state together and create song after song after song, and you just get to lay there and take it all in. Oh my gosh, it's such a portal. Again, I go there, I close my eyes, and it's just like it takes me into another world. It's so cool. So I got to do a lot of those things, and again, just fill up my own cup, even if I was by myself. Like I enjoyed it so much, and it filled me up so much. It filled my soul. And then, yeah, Sunday I was exhausted. And so I ended up going back to camp with a friend, and I was moving through some emotions and through my own processes of just different relationships in my life and just different lessons that I'm integrating right now. And again, especially if you're partaking in any plant medicines, or even just being there, you're just in such an open, raw, receptive state that, like, again, just whatever comes through, and it's beautiful. And that night was the full moon, and the moon was just popping, and it was so bright and beautiful. And I went back to camp, and there's a few people there, and I was like, you know what? I actually just feel like I need some time on my own to just like sit with what's coming up for me right now and just take a moment. And so I ended up going by myself and sitting on this log that was like just directly in front of the moon. And it was just me and the moon at like, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning. And camp was pretty quiet. People were still out dancing. And I spent like an hour just staring at the moon and just like reflecting on where I'm at in my life and processing. And it was such a deeply meaningful experience. And this is, something I also want to mention is that in order to live this way, to live in community, to be authentic, to have deep connections with other people and connected to nature and live by your intuition, all these themes that I've mentioned. Again, I think that the foundation to that is the self-discovery journey, is you having a deep connection with yourself. And that is your primary relationship because it's you and you in this life. So to actually develop and cultivate a relationship where you just know who you are and you show up for yourself and you enjoy your own company and you know how to tend to the waters and the worlds that live within you. I mean, that's, again, the theme of this entire podcast. And this is just another little example of how that showed up for me, was like, I knew what I needed in that moment. And I was excited to spend that time with myself, right? Instead of being like, oh, I should go back out to the base stage because that's where all my friends are. And like, what if it's really fun and da, da, da. And I was like, no, this is exactly where I want to be right now. And I get to honor that. And it felt so good. That, again, is living in alignment, and it's your access point to creating a life that's so true to you. And so, yeah, I just spent an hour or so out there in my feels, feeling all the things, processing and just thinking about my life and thinking about this next season of life. We're entering fall and winter, and the eclipse brought up a lot of old things, old patterns, and it was beautiful. And so I got to enjoy that, and then I got to go to bed, get a good night's sleep, and wake up in the morning and start packing up and heading out. And then we just went home from there. And yeah, the sea of messages that came through our group chat afterwards, especially from people who experienced the community and experienced this festival for the first time, it's so impactful to see the impact that you being a source of unconditional love, because you have started cultivating that within you and you can now embody that towards others in a group setting. Like, what that does for humans is amazing. It's beautiful. I mean, it's transformed my life. It continues to. And to see those messages of love be poured in, of people saying that they felt so at home and that this experience changed their lives, and just the impact is so profound. And again, we get to cultivate that in our lives. There's so many spaces that are available, and at the end of the day, people always ask me, like, how do I create community? How do I create conscious community? And what I always say to people is that it starts with you, and it starts with you living a life that's true to you, right? So what does that look like? Again, do the inner work, do it, show up, start to uncover your fears, your conditioning, your trauma, go inwards, like really reflect on, like, who am I really? What do I actually want in this life? And what are the pieces of me that are still hurt and scared that I get to nurture, the inner child that I get to actually like heal, so that it doesn't keep, taking over my decisions in my life. And then at the same time, put yourself into spaces where you actually want to be. Like I said, so much of my joy authentically is music and dance and community. So again, conscious festivals are like, that's why it's a perfect place for me, because I love that. And a lot of people do, but yours might be different. And the more you get to know your true self, the more that you can start to go to spaces and say yes to opportunities that genuinely bring you joy. And when you go into spaces that bring you joy, you are bound to meet people who also have shared values, who enjoy similar things. And so that's step one. And step two is like, okay, now start to create some deeper connections. And that happens when, when you feel safe with someone, when you feel like there's potential there. Can you be the first to let your walls down? Can you be first to let your mask down and be real and ask some deeper questions and share more vulnerably? And that's how you start to build these deeper connections. And over time, they are nurtured and they get to flourish. And it just naturally ripples out, and you meet more people. And, it's a natural process that happens, but you are at the center of your own universe. And so it always gets to start with you embodying that which you want to experience more of. That's truly it. And so, yeah, to start wrapping this up, like I mentioned, the integration piece is huge. And so I always take time after my experiences, once I've caught up on sleep and, I'm like settled back into my space, actually taking some time to not just jump back into routine and start moving and doing again, but taking some time to journal, to meditate, to reflect on, like, what did I learn? What came up for me? And also, like I said, when you felt most alive, what was going on? What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What were you doing? Who were you with? And start to take some of those nuggets and pour them back into your life in smaller ways. Right? Can you start wearing pieces and outfits that make you feel more like yourself, even if you're just going to the park or going on a walk? Can you start to have conversations like you do on the dance floor? Can you dance more, even if you're just by yourself? Can you put music on that makes you feel alive and just get into that energy and pretend like, if you have to, pretend like you're at the show? Whatever it is, like, can we actually integrate the lessons, the experiences, the feelings, the insights, and take them and put them into our lives That is our responsibility. And that is how we continue to create more of this magic, where you're not just escaping your life to have these heightened experiences and then they're over and then you're all sad and depressed on the other side, which can happen too. But it's like, how can you actually take that and create your life to be more of that? That is really the opportunity. And I have seen that happen over the past few years in my life, and it's been so beautiful. Like, I feel like my life is more of the festival now. And that's an amazing thing. So yeah, that was my experience with Unison. It was such a beautiful year. I'm so glad that I went, and that I went with my intention, and that I actually put it into practice. It really taught me so much about following my own truth and how that actually allows for deeper connections. And in the moments when I do come together with the group, it is like there's so much more presence because I'm fully there because I want to be there, right? And I think if we all lived this way, it would be so good. So yeah, I hope that this episode has been entertaining and insightful for you. I'm so curious to hear from you, like, what is it that brings you alive? What brings you joy? And if you have any questions or comments or anything, I'd love to hear from you. I also loved running into people, because there's so many people from Boulder and Denver that go to this festival particularly, to run into people. This happened several times, that have been following along on my journey, whether it's the podcast or on Instagram, who I didn't even know were following, or maybe have never actually connected with deeply. And we happened to synchronistically, divinely run into each other, and they got to share that my work has had an impact on their lives, and that they resonate so much with my message, and they see me and they feel like they know me. Oh my gosh, like, you all know who you are. And that really just left such a deep imprint on my heart. So yeah, I'm really grateful for every single experience that I had, the people I connected with, and I'm grateful that I get to have this platform to share it with all of you. Again, as a reminder of, like, you get to create the life that you want, and go put yourself to experiences that bring your soul to life, because that is the whole point. And that gets to be fuel for the work, for the parts that are more mundane, the everyday life experiences that we kind of just have to deal with. When they are fueled by your soul being lit up by experiences like this that nourish you, who's to say that that is not productive or good use of your time? Like, that's the best use of your time. It's all about your intentionality. So that's what I have to share today. Thank you for being here. I also want to remind you all that I have spaces open for one-on-one coaching. I have 3 and 6 month mentorships. And actually, for the month of September, I'm giving a special offer of 2 free coaching calls. And that can be all that it is, right? If you just want a little bit of support, you want to drop in, you want to connect, you want to work through something that's coming through for you right now that you feel stuck with, like, it's 2 free 1-hour coaching sessions that you get to claim. Just message me on Instagram, shoot me a DM, and I'll send you the link. And seriously, no strings attached. I've done this pretty much every year in September for the past few years, because September is my birthday month, and it's just such a fun way to give back to this community and create some deeper connections with people who've been interested. And then obviously there's the opportunity to keep going if it's something that resonates with you, and we can talk about what that looks like. So if you're interested, if you have questions, if you just want to connect, I love connecting with you guys. It's my favorite thing. So reach out on Instagram. My handle's below in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Sending you all so much love. Thank you for being here. I truly am so, so grateful, and I will talk to you soon.